Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Riley King, and welcome to this afternoon edition of the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. We have a lot of news to get to this afternoon, so let's get started. First up, 6 more deaths linked to COVID-19 announced in New Hampshire. Number is most announced in one day in state. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
What these numbers reflect is the fact that we are going out and we're doing more testing.
As the state announces its largest one-day total of recorded COVID-19 cases, state epidemiologist Dr. Benjamin Chan insists there is no active surge of coronavirus in New Hampshire.
40 to 45% of them actually are related to outbreaks at our congregate living facilities where we have proactively gone in and tested everybody potentially affected there.
Among the 99 new cases, 23 individuals are under the age of 18. DHHS says many of those people were infected in an outbreak at a disability care facility for youth.
Those who are of an older age or with multiple chronic medical conditions are more susceptible to severe infections with COVID-19. But we know certainly that younger individuals, children, teenagers can be infected. And I think some of the numbers today demonstrate that.
Sadly, 6 more individuals passed away, bringing the state's death toll to 48. Chan says 4 out of the 6 were associated with long-term care facilities. To stay ahead of the curve, testing has ramped up among that population.
The numbers are going to likely increase like we're seeing today, but we don't believe that represents necessarily a surge in the transmission in our communities.
And Dr. Chan stresses that the primary way to combat the spread of coronavirus is social distancing. Once these numbers come down, health officials say we can begin to reopen things in society.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. COVID-19 in New Hampshire, what you need to know. Let's take a look. And here's a look at the COVID-19 in New Hampshire, what you need to know. There are 1,588 number of people in New Hampshire who have tested positive for COVID-19. 840,340 number of people in the United States who have tested positive. 48 number of deaths from COVID-19 in New Hampshire. 213 number of people who have been hospitalized with COVID-19 in New Hampshire. And 46,560 number of deaths from COVID-19 in the United States. This map of New Hampshire shows you where the cases of COVID-19 are in towns and cities of New Hampshire. Raymond, 10 to 19 cases of COVID-19 in Raymond, New Hampshire. In this chart here, new cases each day in New Hampshire in the purple, daily new positive COVID-19 cases in the orange, new hospitalizations, and in the red are the deaths. In this chart here, age groups by COVID-19. Female and male groups by COVID-19 and risk information. Your common symptoms: fever, lack of smell, cough, and difficult breathing. How it spreads, and prevention tips. Be sure to stay with the Riley King Network for the latest of COVID-19 information. AG, troopers use force in shooting at Concord Park was legally justified. The 22-year-old who was injured faced multiple charges. A New Hampshire state trooper who shot and wounded a man in a park was justified in his use of deadly force, the Attorney General's office said Thursday. Trooper Michael Pelletier and other responded to White Park in Concord. A burglary alarm at the skate house had gone off, and a man was seen in a nearby ball field. The man, identified as Dylan Stanley, 22, had a drink container in one hand and a handgun in the other, the Attorney General's office said in a report. Officers reportedly told him to drop the gun, but he did not and continued to move around the field, pointing the gun in all directions, including at himself, at officers, and in the direction of nearby homes, officials said. Petterell fired his rifle at Stanley on April 5th. Stanley was hit in the left upper arm and dropped to the ground. No one else was hurt. Stanley was taken to the hospital for a non-life-threatening injury. He was charged with burglary, reckless conduct, and being a felon in possession of a firearm. His case is pending, authorities said. And happening right now in Boston, the Massachusetts governor, Charlie Baker, is doing his COVID-19 briefing right now, and we'll show you some of that.
Them work together to make sure that they, you, and we have the capacity and the ability to serve both those who are dealing with COVID-19 and those who are dealing with the other issues in medicine that are much more traditional to what they see every day. And it's terrific that the 6 Boston teaching hospitals participated in a series of TV public service announcements.
And if you want to watch that briefing of the COVID-19 update given by Governor Charlie Baker, you can just go to the Riley King Network Facebook page and see that briefing right now. Or you can go to WCVB Channel 5 Facebook page. Five new coronavirus-related deaths, 30 new confirmed cases reported in Maine. The Maine Center for Disease Control and Prevention reported 5 new coronavirus-related deaths on Thursday today. A total of 44 Mainers have now died of the virus. The 5 deaths are the largest daily increase since the outbreak begun. Dow rises more than 200 points as Exxon and Chevy lead the gains. Stocks rose sharply on Thursday as oil prices recovered even more ground after a historic plunge, while Wall Street designated the latest U.S. unemployment and earnings data. Tensions are mounting over when to lift coronavirus restrictions, with President Trump saying he disagreed with Georgia reopening some businesses tomorrow, and the director of CDC is clarifying his remarks about second wave being worse during flu season in the fall. Let's take a listen to this video from ABC News.
This morning, tensions mounting over when to lift the coronavirus lockdowns. In Georgia, the governor's call to reopen gyms, bowling alleys, and barber shops tomorrow is facing pushback from city leaders across the state.
There's nothing essential about going to a bowling alley in the middle of a pandemic.
And now, even President Trump and Dr. Anthony Fauci are voicing their opposition to the governor's plan.
I want him to do what he thinks is right. But I disagree with him on what he's doing.
There are certain checkpoints before you can even think about going into a phase one.
A source familiar with a phone call between President Trump and Georgia Governor Brian Kemp says the conversation was amicable. But the president asked the governor if he could limit the businesses reopening until May 1st. Overnight, Kemp defending his plan on Twitter, saying he appreciates the president's leadership, but adding, our next measured step is driven by data and guided by state public health officials. We will continue with this approach to protect the lives and livelihoods of all Georgians. Models show virus deaths in Georgia aren't expected to peak until this Sunday. This map from the University of Washington shows when each state should begin lifting restrictions. The green states suggesting sometime in May. But the data shows Georgia should not lift restrictions until June 8th or later. Small business owners now facing tough choices as they wait for the federal government to roll out the second loan relief program. And that may still not be enough. Former Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz predicts businesses will likely need $1 trillion in relief.
That I estimate, and this could be conservative, that at least 30% of America's small businesses and independent restaurants will permanently close as a result of not having an economic bridge to a vaccine. That is the issue.
John Douglas, the owner of this barbershop in Atlanta, says despite the urgent need to get back to business, opening tomorrow is too risky.
I was excited, but then I had to just sit back, calm down, relax, and just realize that it's probably not the right time.
In Las Vegas, the mayor is more optimistic, pushing to reopen casinos, but without a specific plan.
Why, as mayor of a city that you were responsible for the people's safety, are you calling for something that you have no plan for how it would be done safely?
I am not a private owner. That's the competition in this country. For a restaurant to be open or a small boutique to be open, they better figure it out. That's their job. That's not the mayor's job.
In the meantime, the director of the CDC is clarifying what he said about a second wave of the virus possibly being worse later this year, saying he was misquoted. The president downplaying the risk of a major resurgence during flu season, but then he was seemingly contradicted by Dr. Fauci moments later.
He's talking about a worst-case scenario where you have a big flu and you have some corona. And if it does come back, it's not going to come back, and I've spoken to 10 different people, not going to be like it was.
We will have coronavirus in the fall. I am convinced of that.
As for when to reopen, a poll out this morning finds 80% of Americans think these strict shelter-in-place measures are worth it to protect against the virus, and 80% of the people surveyed said they can handle staying at home for another month. Kenneth, Mona.
All right, Megan, thank you.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And that does it for this afternoon edition of the Riley King Newscast right here on the Riley King Network. Thank you for watching this afternoon edition. Have a great rest of your afternoon. I'll see you back here later on today for another newscast. And I'll have a news report coming up in a little bit. Goodbye, everyone.